Building a custodian from scratch is a complex undertaking. It requires regulatory approval, capital, operational resilience, technology architecture, and above all, trust from the market. A few years ago, Pieter did exactly that. He led the creation of Knox, a fully licensed custodian built to serve independent wealth and asset managers in the Netherlands. In 2022, Knox was acquired by AFS, forming the foundation of its custody capabilities today. In this episode, we go inside that journey and explore what it truly takes to build a custodian from the ground up. Hi, and welcome to Wealth Insider, a podcast by Performativ. This is where industry meets insight, where we sit down for honest and engaging conversations with voices from every corner of the financial world. Together, we explore trends, strategies, and partnerships that are shaping the future of wealth management. Wealth Insider brings you closer to the people and the ideas that are driving the industry forward. Pieter, welcome to the show. Thrilled to have you here. Maybe to start, so for those who are not as familiar with AFS, maybe talk about origin story of AFS, how it fits into the Dutch market, and sort of the broader strategy, how custody fits into that as well.
Yeah, sure. But thanks for the invite. AFS stands for Amsterdam Financial Services. It's a very old company, but that's because of the Dutch exchange, which is very old. So the company exists 175 years this year, so that's quite long. We are well known because of a broker. That's how we all started, as a money market broker. That's still one of our activities, but during the years, especially the last 10 years, we developed much more wider services, and one of them is the custody services. But we are big in energy trading, bond trading, all listed type of financial instruments we can trade. So that's our background. And custody is then one of the new activities. With the takeover of the custody part, where I was responsible, I started at AFS, and custody became one of the core activities of AFS.
So maybe we can rewind a bit and talk a bit about before Knox was acquired by AFS. I think you have a very, very interesting career arc. What led you to start Knox from scratch?
Now, first of all, I think if you look at my background in the past, I was always involved in building up something new from, in most cases, nothing. That's what I did within the companies I worked in the past. Kasbank, a real Dutch bank, and Bing Bank, of course. Also, at the time, I was involved with new activities like a new MTF, the first derivatives MTF in the Netherlands. The first new pension vehicle, which we call in Dutch PPI, to be frank. So that's actually what I really like. So when they approached me for this initiative, because it was not my personal plan, I really thought, yeah, that's something for me. Although in the beginning I thought we will take 1 year and we will set up this cooperation as a custody services for asset managers. But it took much more time, absolutely. So that's, I was approached, spoke to a couple of asset managers. At the end, 25 asset managers were involved with this new initiative. And the Knox initiative was actually, that started because all the asset managers were so unhappy with the existing services of custodians that they thought with the cooperation, we create an alternative. And then Knox was born.
So when you look to begin the build out of Knox, what specific problem were you looking to solve in the market?
Now, what we tried to do was, as I said, an alternative for custody business. And because the advantage was that we started from scratch. So we could think of what is the minimum requirements. So we spoke to a lot of asset managers. And everything we decided in the beginning was because of the input of all these asset managers. So to be creative in this respect was, of course, you need a license, but we prefer to have a low-cost vehicle, but modern in terms of technique. That means that we decided to set up within the corporation of a custodian without a bank license. And that was something completely new in the Netherlands. And that's mainly the reason why it took 2 years before we could get the license. So that was, let's say, the first struggle to convince the AFM, the Dutch supervisor, that it was possible to create a custodian with this background. And at the end, due to the fact that we had a knowledgeable team with legal background, compliance background, operational background. It was a small team, but it was of such a high quality level that we managed to do it all on our own without the use of expensive external lawyers or whatever. And I think that was also one of the reasons why we were able to convince the AFM that we knew where we were talking about and what at the end the idea was of setting up this custodian. And they understood the reason why. So at the end we got the license. That was the first struggle. And then the second one was with a new platform, start from scratch. It was an IT project. So we started step by step, type of financial instrument per instrument. So we started with mutual funds, then with ETF, and then with listed stock. And of course, after some time, we could offer almost everything.
I'm pretty fascinated by this starting from scratch portion of it. It took a long time to convince AFM to give you the license. So that seems like maybe the first foundational step needed. Is that true, or is there just a lot of nuance in between in that 2-year struggle?
No, it's of course what I said, the combination of the knowledge, but you need to be patient, of course. The supervisor takes a lot of time, so it's also waiting. So I always said, without sweat, patience, and a knowledgeable team, you're absolutely not able to set up a custodian with, as we did with Knox. But I think, to be honest, almost every complete new setup in terms of business, you need a lot of sweat because it takes a lot of time and many, many hours work, of course.
Was there anything that you could do to push the timeline forward, or are you really at the mercy of AFM and being an organization like they are, and then you just wait it out?
Yeah, of course, I was thinking, what can we do to speed up the process? It was more like to get in touch as much as possible, to be able to, again, if necessary, explain what what type of custodian we would prefer to set up. That's actually the frustration. That's all you can do, because without a license, you cannot do anything. And of course, there is a concern that you will not get the license. So that's the mixture. So that's why I'm saying you need patience, but also show the supervisor that you are really serious and it's not a joke or whatever. It was really serious. And again, with 25 asset managers behind us, explaining to the supervisor that it's really necessary for the market in general that we succeed, and that all together, I think, was part of the success.
So you mentioned patience with essentially procuring the AFM license, but I guess what was the most demanding part of that whole process? Was it just simply patience, or was there something else that was?
No, it was. If we go in depth, it was the key part in the discussion with the supervisor was asset segregation, and because we were not a bank, everyone in general believes a bank is safe, and if you're not a bank, you have a lot of explanation to do. Although we were fully aware of the rules and regulations, and we were convinced that the asset segregation was properly done, it still needed a lot of, let's say, confidence on the side of the supervisor. And funny enough, let's say the front-end people of the supervisor, it was relative, now it's not easy, but to explain it further, but then at the back of it, more, let's say, the legal part of the discussion, then they were looking very strict to certain rules. And then you come up with a discussion about the interpretation of the rules. And then it's a gray area. And then you're fully dependent, first of all, on how to explain it, to convince them, and at the end, give a trustful feeling that everything has properly been set up. And that's why, I can't do it on my own. So, because if it's then you're a single point of failure. So it's really the team behind you who can convince the supervisor that everything is properly arranged.
So beyond regulatory approval, which is obviously very important in the process, what else had to be in place to ensure credibility from day one?
Actually, a big part of discussion was the size of the company, because we decided to outsource everything. We presented Knox with just 3-4 people. And the supervisor couldn't believe that you can run a depository, a custodian with 3-4 people. And so they came back to us and said, we are not convinced, you're not in control, and all these type of words. So what we at the end did, explained in extremely detail all the activities which are the responsibility of a custodian. And literally, we mentioned how many hours of work on each subject we have to spend, and that it's really clear that you can do it with 4 or 5 people. And of course, with outsourcing partners, a bank, a system provider, and all these type of stuff around Knox. And because we did that in so much detail, and also with the proper explanation, if you outsource, who's responsible? And so in technical terms, the Raki, that we were able to convince them that with a small team, although we had to add 1 or 2 persons to the team compared to the original plan, but that was sufficient. But again, we had to change the business plan again, of course, with 2 people more in the team, of course, higher cost. But at the end, overall, that was a critical part of getting the license as well. But again, with the knowledge, all the detailed and close cooperation with all the partners, we were able to convince the supervisor as well.
So the AFM license was granted. You got through that hurdle. It was a big step. But then I guess you start into making Knox a well-oiled machine. What were the steps that you took to create that?
Now, actually, we approached Knox as a project. So, of course, the license was part of the most important step. But the second one was to let's say, to deliver the systems you need to act as a custodian. And we decided together with the IT sponsor to create our own custody platform. So we started from scratch. And all the knowledge of the Knox people and the IT system provider, that was Blanco. We created Knox from nothing. And for me, personally, it was absolutely a challenge because, of course, in the past, I created new businesses from scratch. But here it was really the core of a custodian. And we did it step by step. So first, all the general procedures, just an account holding and all the basics. And then we started in the connection to the outside world. And the most easiest part was the mutual fund business. And as I said, later on, new financial instruments. And until we get a complete package, as we still do at the moment, what we offer to asset managers and any other financial instruments. But it was a real challenge because it was of course you have an advantage if you have complete new software. But on the other end, you need to test a lot. And especially because you're a custodian. And you need to keep all the records. It needs to be properly done. It's not a reporting tool or whatever. It's really the basics with an accounting system. But at the end, we succeed. But nevertheless, it was, again, a bit of a delay compared to what we originally had a plan. And so the license took 2 years. And before we were fully up and running, and again a delay in the first year, was I think in total when we were able to deliver the complete package was 2 years time after getting the license. And that's not only because we were lazy or whatever, but it was more like we were running into financial trouble as well, because of the delay of the license and the system, the investment amount in Knox was so big that at the end the investor, Blanco in this respect, decided not to continue that anymore, and that was the starting point of, let's say, the takeover by AFS. So after the takeover AFS, you can't believe it, but again we had to wait for the new license because the license of AFS was not sufficient for the takeover. So again, 9 months of getting that license, the same as Knox, finishing the technique. So I think altogether from, let's say, day one until we were able to deliver everything was 4 years, I think, in total.
So when I hear that story, it really sticks out, like the challenges that you had to overcome to get to the point where you felt like a well-oiled machine. Was there any trepidation or doubt in that 4-year process where you thought, okay, this isn't just going to work out the way that I thought it was going to?
No, actually not, because we had such a good team. We were convinced that we took the proper steps, and of course the support of 25 asset managers. Don't forget that. That's the most important. It was actually only the investment in the total package which was so big. So even when we heard that, let's say, the continuity was in danger, we were looking at each other. Yeah, we have a license. There was already so much money in the project. So with all the colleagues together, we said we try to find a solution. And that's why we kept on going, talking and convincing. And we are very happy that AFS took the decision at the time.
Maybe that's also a good note for small, lean teams, what they can accomplish when there's that amount of knowledge base. I think it's a testament that you guys were able to do that.
Yeah, it's knowledge and it's patience, of course, and creativity. That combination is key, especially in an environment like custody business, because the rules are so strict that if you read something in the rules, you need to have the knowledge for the interpretation. How does it work in practice? And that combination, that's what you need to get a job done as we did in the past.
So Knox clearly matured and became a target of AFS. What capabilities in particular was AFS attracted to?
AFS already made a decision, I think in 2020, that they had something new development in mind whereby the custody part was part of it. So they already had a plan to go for a custody license. And when I approached AFS, and AFS was the broker of Knox, when I approached them, AFS said, Pieter, we believe in Knox, but we don't want to invest in Knox. We are really looking forward to offer custody service at the end. So maybe it's the best solution to combine everything and integrate it. So that's how we started with the idea, not to continue with Knox. It was a cooperative, but to integrate it in one of the entities of AFS Group, which is AFS Execution Services. So it became an execution broker and custody business together. And that's what we did at the end, because the combination is strong. So actually what we did, the whole architecture, which we decided to build, didn't change, because we had a custody platform which was connected to the broker AFS. And with the integration, actually the custody platform became AFS, but let's say the whole technical infrastructure didn't change. So that was the good thing. So we didn't have to invest again in the technique. It was actually the only important step was to get the license with the AFS and to continue the custody services.
So after the acquisition, how did the custody proposition sort of strengthen AFS's overall proposition to the market?
Now, of course, we started with continuation of service to asset managers and compete with existing custodians in the Netherlands. However, I speak a lot to all my colleagues across the group. We have a good example of that is that we have an MTF license as well. So the combination of custody tradability is a unique concept. We are rolling it out. We already have a crowdfunding platform in place. And what we do for the crowdfunding is they do not issue a loan, but they issue a bond. And we do the custody. We do the payments of the bond, corporate actions, the issuing itself. And last but not least, at the end, the bonds are able to trade on the MTF. That combination makes AFS quite unique. And this concept we try to further develop for other type of segments as well. So that's an example of why custody is really strategic for AFS. And on the other end, we try to sell in combination with other products like the treasury products, bond trading, to combine it with custody services as well. So it's really part of the AFS strategy.
So obviously after acquisition, you just spoke about how the custody offering strengthened AFS's offering, but maybe broader in the next 5 to 10 years and in line with AFS's growth strategy, not only in custody, but what other elements are going to allow AFS to continue to grow and expand their business?
Yeah, we are growing, to be honest, on almost all parts of AFS, but we have a couple of really key strategic attention points, and AFS Energy is one. Half of the company is AFS Energy. It's growing quite fast. One of the key elements there is that we created a client portal, whereby and an energy exchange with the possibility for companies who trade in energy products through our client portal to get access to this market. That's also quite innovative. Also a fact that they have a client portal where they can see where we can show all our products. That's new. So we invest a lot in that as well. As I said, the MTF is really, really an important part for us in combination with other services, also with custody services. And the custody service itself. And other parts are growing as well, but these are, let's say, the more new elements in the growth potential of the group for the next 5 years.
Fantastic. So I would love to ask you one last question, maybe a little bit off topic, but there's something around your career arc and then starting out with a really ambitious project like Knox, building it from scratch. What advice can you give to somebody who's maybe taking that same journey? And it could be starting a custodian from scratch or a business from scratch. What can you offer as far as advice?
Now, of course, I can answer this question in general, but if I look at let's say in the financial industry, where I have the experience, what I think is what you need if you would like to do things like this, your knowledge level on the product itself, but in combination with rules and regulation, because it's such a regulated industry. What I think, if I look back in the past, it was always the combination of the product knowledge level in close combination with rules and regulations, and even better, the new rules and regulations. So read a lot about new rules and regulations and try to be the first. That's what I did many, many times. Of course, it's a challenge because no one has the experience with new rules and regulations, but it's the combination of your team and interpretation and the fact that you are able to do that with your team. And I always say, you can go to the supervisor to ask what they mean, what it means in the rules of regulations. But try to do it yourself. Why should a supervisor know that better than you? That's what I quite often say to all my colleagues. Because if we look around the table, the knowledge level is of such a high level, then you can do it on your own. As long as if you think and the interpretation of these rules and try to combine it with your products. And then you can set up something new, like a pension institution. Maybe a custodian is a bit larger project, but even then, it's exactly what we did with Knox. Interpretation of rules and regulations and saying we can set up a custodian without a bank license. That's then the example. And I think that is a key element if you would like to set up something in this really, really regulated sector.
Fantastic. I think we will end with that pearl of wisdom. Thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, Pieter.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thanks for the invite.
That's it for today's episode of Wealth Insider. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find more insight on Performativ.com, and we'll be back soon with more conversations from the people redefining wealth management.